So Dino was huge.
Yeah.
How many people in here was that a huge for? Not just the other weekend. It's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. Dino was like.
Yeah.
It's like a huge eye opener for all of us.
So do you really think, you said something about age, when you were in church, you grew up in church, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you never felt like you were really following Christ in your whole heart?
I did sometimes. 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, I was pretty solid. I moved a bit, like, probably because I moved to Van Alstyne when I was in 7th grade, and so I was really, I mean, like, I had friends and stuff, but I mean, just like, I grew up in Dallas, like, my whole life, and then just, like, not having that, and just, like, being really lonely, and just, like, a different city completely. And I grew up in the city, and I was just, like, small town. So I got close to God then, and then sophomore and junior year, and some of senior year, I was just, like, it wasn't like I turned my back on God, like, deliberately, like, it's not like I was, like, whatever, God. I just started, like, kind of falling away from it, and I would come back a little bit, like, going to Pine Cove or going to Summit and stuff, but then just I fell back into it.
Was there anybody or anything that happened that helped? Like, I know you talked about D now, but was there anybody in your life who was kind of instrumental in pointing you to that day when you really made that decision?
Well, I mean, I guess that was when I was really little. But I mean, like, kind of just like helping me
I
throughout my life, though.
Recent, yeah.
Like, my parents a lot, and I have a small group leader at my church in Dallas that she's been with us since 6th grade. And so her name's Bridget, and so she's really helpful. We always try to do stuff together, and we have small group every Sunday. It's Bridget.
Okay.
Yeah, and she helps a lot. And then just like everybody in this youth group, like just like everybody here is like it's just been really encouraging.
All right, if you could have 5 minutes alone with God, or whatever it takes, a minute, 5 minutes, you could ask him any question. What would you ask him?
Oh yeah, well, like, so there's people now that, like, obviously the rapture hasn't come yet. So there's people now that, don't believe in God and they go to hell. But then, like, once the rapture comes, like, why do all those people get a second chance? Like, why? I wonder why, like, he's giving those people a second chance instead of all the people before.
Chris can explain that next week.
Good to know.
So we'll videotape it and send it to you. No, that's a good question though, because we grew up feeling like, I felt like I remember coming home one day when I was probably 9 or 10, and this is kind of weird to think about now, but I grew up. My mom and dad, we talked about the rapture, and I knew there was going to be a day when Christ would come back, and I came home. And it's like the TV's going, Mom's got something on the kitchen stove, but she's not there. And I go in her bedroom, and there's like a dress on the floor. And I was like, the rapture happened. I missed it, like freaked out. But I've kind of wondered that too.
Sometimes in the office, I take extra set of clothes, and when I go to the bathroom, I leave them on the hallway, and then I leave for a couple hours just to scare Martha.
You're going to have to try that in the room.
Okay, well.
That's a good question.
Are you being serious?
Is he serious? Is there a specific person or a story in the Bible that means a lot to you and why?
I have two. One of them is Joseph, and he had all the dreams and stuff. And like his brothers sold him into slavery, and he had it really bad for a long time. And once his brothers came back and asked for forgiveness, he was just he was really forgiving. And I just want to read this one verse. But Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." So I think that's kind of cool how he's you intended to harm me, but God used everything, all of this for good. And I think we talked about that in my group at Bible study on Monday. How sometimes just having joy in suffering, knowing that it's all gonna work out. And then
like a knee injury.
What?
Like a knee injury.
I still don't really understand it, but figure it out. I'll just read this little story. Lydia's conversion to Philippi. On the Sabbath, we went outside the city gate to the river, where we expected to find a place of prayer. We sat down and began to speak to the women who had gathered there. One of these listening was a woman named Lydia. a dealer in purple cloth in the city of Thyatira, who was a worshiper of God. The Lord opened her heart to respond to Paul's message. When she and the members of her household were baptized, she invited us to her home. If you consider me a believer in the Lord, she says, come stay at my house, and she persuaded us. I think it's kind of cool, but it's my name.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you a character in the Bible, and I knew you were going to say that name.
Of course.
So we got there anyway. All right, so since we're studying to do hard things, I'm going to ask everybody this question tonight. But I'm going to ask yours in a different way. The question is, what hard thing is God calling you to do that will have an eternal impact for the sake of the gospel? So what is the hard thing that you feel like God's calling you to do?
I guess really letting him be in control of my life, fully, not just little bits and pieces, but everything, my whole life. Because I think that was my biggest problem throughout high school. Was I would let him control part of my life, and then some of it I was just no, I'm gonna do this myself. So that's especially in college, because there's gonna be a lot of just things going on.
Cool. I love that. What's the one thing that you hope everybody remembers about Lydia Pettit? Not that we're going to forget you, but...
I want people to remember that, I'm a person who loves God, and that I'm following Him, that I'm not just a Christian. Anybody can say they're a Christian, but that, I really did, follow God. I mean, I know, obviously, I don't have a perfect record, but nobody does.
Yeah.
But just, that's what I want. If no one else remembers anything, that's what I want to remember.
I like that. I love looking at everybody's status on Facebook, where they have their religion or whatever.